Hi, I'm Lion with ScreenerKing, and welcome to our series of how-to videos. In today's video, we'll be covering how to install a screen. We'll cover installing a screen, installing a center tie-down assembly, and securing the top spacing frame and screen with a clamp ring. Let's get started. For this installation, we'll need the screen, tie-down assembly, the spacing frame, clamp rings, and a couple of basic tools. For these larger screens, it's always better to have an extra set of hands. Before installing the screen, it's always a good idea to double check the condition of the frames that you'll be installing the screen on. Make sure it's free of dirt or any significant dents that are going to make it hard to install the clamp ring. Double check the condition of the mesh of the screen you're installing. Make sure that there's good mesh tension, and make sure you've got a nice clean gasket that's properly installed. This screen has a center hole for a tie down. So the first thing I'm going to do is install the screen and measure to see what length tie down I need. In this case, I've got 3 inches from the welded nut on the frame to the screen. I'm going to add 2 inches. So I need a 5-inch long all thread. We're going to start by installing the all thread just by hand tightening it into the frame. Once it's hand tight, I'm going to lock it down using this jam nut. Just a basic wrench here, just a moderate amount of force, nothing crazy, and that should do it. Okay, next we've got to find what height we want to set for our washers on the support side. So I'm going to test install the screen, and then I'm going to lower this nut to where it's right at about the bottom of the screen. And then I'll have to lower it a little bit more to accommodate for the width of the washer. Okay, so now I need to accommodate for the thickness of my washer and neoprene gasket. So I need to lower this nut by just enough to accommodate that. And then I'll test and fit the screen. We'll put it back in and see if we've got the right height. Okay, that's perfect. I wanted the screen to make contact with this tie-down assembly and all sides of the frame about at the same time. I don't want it to be too high in the middle. I certainly don't want it to be too low in the middle. Might be able to lower it just a touch in this case, but it's pretty close. Okay. All right, so we're test installing this, and it looks like we've gone too low with our washer. It's not reaching this center plate on the screen, so we're going to have to remove the screen and raise the washer. Alternatively, if you have a fully nylon tie-down assembly, you can install the screen and actually rotate this by hand to raise or lower it. In this case, I'm going to raise it up until it just makes contact with my center washer, and now I can install the rest of it. Now that we've found the right height for the washer, we've got to remove the screen and lock those 2 nuts against each other so that it doesn't change. Make it easier, I'm going to remove that. I'm going to raise this lower nut to the upper nut, and then lock these 2 against each other. All right, now we're going to install the screen, and we can install our top spacing frame. We're going to hold off on installing this cap. That's the last thing we're going to do, and I'll explain that in a minute. Okay, now we're going to install the spacing frame above the screen, being careful not to damage it when we install it. And I want to be able to rotate this outlet of the spacing frame into the desired position. And the reason I didn't install that top of this tie down was specifically for this reason. As I rotate this, it's going to have a tendency to want to rotate the screen. And if my screen is locked down in the middle and I'm trying to rotate the outside, I can put stress on these wires and even break them. If you're wondering which way is up or down on these screens. The screens are designed with a lip ring that raises the mesh level. That's designed so that the mesh level is basically in line with your discharge, so any of the material that's oversized can exit. If you install it the other way, you'd have to build up material on the screen mesh before enough of it would exit. There are some applications where customers prefer to do that so that very little material exits, but the standard screen installation is going to be with the screen mesh up. All right, now we're going to install the clamp rings. I like to start with the bolt-on half, the one that doesn't have the quick release handle. And the hardest part is getting around the discharge. So I like to go under it like this. You have to stretch it a little bit in place to get it in place. And then where we choose we want to have our quick release handle, I'm going to go ahead and install the T-bolt. So you'll install the T-bolt with the T-handle facing out, and then the nut on the other side. Just thread that on a little bit. Now I'll install the quick release handle half. Make sure the handle is on the same side as the T-bolt. It's as simple as sliding it around and then pushing it closed. We'll use standard bolt and brass nut to do the installation back here. And I just like to get it hand tight. Once it's hand tight, then I'll focus on getting the tension right on the other side. Now we can check the tension here. I can tell it's going to be too loose just by looking at it, so I'll go ahead and tighten this down more. Just making adjustments by hand. Okay. Now we'll test the tension on the clamp ring by putting that T-bolt inside there and pushing this. And I can tell there's not enough tension. I want to make sure I've got good tension, that it's going to make sure that we prevent these frames from spinning. If you don't have enough tension, the motion of the machine will actually spin this entire frame. So we're going to go a little bit tighter and then test it again. Okay, so now I can feel I've got pretty good tension, and then I'll want to secure this by pulling out on this flange. Sometimes this is tough to do by hand. What I like to do is just use a tool to help me get it out if I need to. And that way this little retention clip is here and this handle is not going to fly open on its own. Now that the clamp ring's installed, let's do a quick visual inspection of the full circumference of the clamp ring to make sure that the lips of the frames are properly secured by the clamp ring. Okay, the last step is to secure the top of our screen tie-down assembly. If you're using traditional tie-down assembly, you'll want to place the washer, and then you're going to want to secure it with preferably 2 nuts just to make sure. So you'll thread both nuts on there. And give them both a moderate amount of tension, not too much. But we just want to make sure that we properly compress that neoprene gasket, and that's going to keep us a little quieter and make sure that we don't have any material that sneaks through that center hole. For the toolless tie-down assembly, use your neoprene washer, flat washer, and then we can secure it with our top cone. We're just going to get this hand tightened. This cone gives us a nice surface to grab onto and get a good amount of tension. Compress that washer, and now our screen is nice and tight, properly secured, and we're ready to operate. Okay, we've got a completed screen. We're ready to run. When it's time to swap out screens or clean the screen, you're just going to do everything in the reverse order. So start with the top of the tie-down assembly, remove that, then remove the clamp ring, then remove the screen. Ideally, you should be able to leave that all-thread post with those 2 nuts locked together in that position so you don't have to go through that exercise again.
But don't forget, everything used in this video is available right now on the website, which we have linked below in the description, and individual product links as well. Feel free to contact us anytime with any questions or special requests that you have, and also check out our additional helpful resources on the Resource Hub and FAQ sections on the website.
That concludes today's video. Don't forget to subscribe. We've got more how-to videos coming up. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.